Good evening, Ashifa. Good evening.
Moses, can you change your name? I imagine
Arman,
iPhone.
good evening.
Put your name, please. Instead of I imagine iPhone, it is showing I imagine iPhone. Can you put your name, please?
Arman, can you see me in my background?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks.
We will all have to mute ourselves and put our camera on.
Arman.
Yes, Moses.
No, I understand. I will get into my laptop in 10 minutes.
Yeah, we are going to be live. So please.
Yeah. I will get in.
Yeah, Asifa. But I'm not on that chat. It's a chat here. Oh my God, one second.
Sangeeta ma'am, you can start.
Namaskar and a really warm welcome to all of you participants, guests, and awardees to the 22nd NCPEDP-MIndtree Helen Keller Awards. We are joined with a host of honored guests and dignitaries. We have with us Mr. Panish Rao, Head Sustainability-MIndtree, who's a friend and a partner. Thank you very much for being here. We have Mr. Pradeep Gupta, Trustee NCPEDP, Jury Chair and Chairman Cyber Media Group. Thank you very much, Mr. Gupta, for being here. We have, of course, our Chairman, Mr. Som Mittal. Thanks, Som, for being here. We will later be joined by our guest of honor, Mr. Rishat Premji, Chairman Wipro Limited, and he and Mr. Som Mittal will interact briefly. And unfortunately, we are not joined by Mr. Rajiv Chandrasekhar, Honorable Minister of State in the Ministry of Skill Development, Entrepreneurship, and Minister of State in the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. He backed out, probably due to some exigency. But thank you very much, everyone, for joining in. And of course, we have Mr. Arman Ali, Executive Director, NCPEDP, with us. As you know, this event is completely online. So just a few housekeeping, the usual housekeeping rules. Request all of you to keep your audio as well as your video switched off when you're not speaking. Keep your mobile phones on the silent mode. And when you are to speak, then you could switch on your video as well as your audio. So, friends, now in its 22nd year, the NCPEDP-MIndtree Helen Keller Awards are regarded as one of the top awards in the field of disability. NCPEDP is proud to be partnering with Mindtree Limited for these awards for more than 6 years now, working together towards the shared goal of empowering people with disabilities, inspiring stakeholders, and accelerating sustainable growth of companies as well as individuals. We would like to take this opportunity to thank Mindtree for their continued support and for sharing our vision of an inclusive society. We hope that more organizations come forward and show their commitment towards such endeavors. The story of the Helen Keller Awards dates back to 1999. The awards were introduced after a survey conducted by NCPEDP of the top 100 companies of India, both private as well as public, which showed that less than 1% of persons with disabilities were employed in government jobs, the private sector as well as MNCs. The aim of the awards was to start a discourse on equal opportunities for persons with disabilities in the areas of employment and financial independence, thus empowering them in the long run. The awards, therefore, for the last 22 years have been taking the momentum forward, creating role models and celebrating the achievements and contributions to employment of persons with disabilities in an attempt to motivate and encourage others in our society. Friends, the last 2 years have witnessed all of us grappling with the COVID-19 pandemic, which has disrupted traditional practices related to all aspects of our lives, be it education or entertainment or economic activities, social interactions. Just about everything has gone through a sea change. These pandemic-induced changes pose challenges for everyone. However, persons with disabilities were the hardest hit, finding themselves grappling with unique situations. While thousands of people moved to work remotely and had access to alternative employment opportunities, people with disabilities were systematically placed in a disadvantageous position, especially for income security. The need of the hour, thus, is broadening the avenues around employment as well as other opportunities of financial growth and self-employment to ensure that persons with disabilities are empowered. In keeping with this line of thought, we have also introduced a new category this year, entrepreneurs with disabilities. This is to recognize efforts in self-employment. Apart from the usual 3 categories, which include role model persons with disabilities, role model supporter of increased employment opportunities for persons with disabilities. I now invite Mr. Arman Ali, Executive Director, NCPEDP, to deliver the welcome address.
Thank you, Sangeeta ji. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the virtual presentation ceremony of the 22nd NCPEDP-MIndtree Helen Keller Awards 2021. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Sharad Phillip Md, Chairman Wipro Limited, Mr. Fanish Rao, the Head Sustainability Mindtree, all the awardees for the Helen Keller Awards 2021, Mr. Pradeep Gupta, Chairman, Cyber Media and Trustee NCPEDP, also the Jury Chairman for the Helen Keller Awards 2021, Mr. Abraham Moses, General Manager, Mindtree, and Mr. Soumitra, Chairman, NCPEDP. Last but not the least, my friends and colleagues from the disability sector, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me immense pleasure to share that this year we are celebrating the 22nd NCPEDP Helen Keller Awards and the 6th NCPEDP-MIndtree partnership, and we take pride in that. And the excitement for the last 22 years has never have been dampened, and each year we are more excited to do more, to reach out to more people with disabilities and organizations who are working in the area of promoting employment for people with disabilities. As rightly mentioned, the last 2 years has been extremely difficult for the entire world, and persons with disability in particular have faced unprecedented hardship. Not to mention the loss of livelihood opportunities, employment, and various other difficulties which the whole world went through. But in these times, many organizations and individuals with disabilities and organizations working with people with disabilities and for disabilities came forward and supported through their various initiatives so that people could sustain themselves during this time. And as rightly mentioned by Sangeeta ji, we recognized the effort of people with disabilities who work in the unorganized sector, the people who come from far remote areas from the hinterland of the country, who has started their own initiative and have been able to sustain their businesses in their own in the region they come from. Largely, also, we have reached many people across the country who are from the rural part of India. Over the past 2 decades, the Helen Keller Awards have become to be the recognized and most prestigious Indian benchmark for recognizing and honoring people and organizations working towards promotion of employment for persons with disabilities. And at NCPEDP, we are job half done, and I think we have a long way to go. Our goal is to create a larger impact in providing equal opportunity and reasonable accommodation for persons with disabilities in the area of employment, and fostering new partnership for promoting employment, and there is a need to create awareness to do away with all the myths around disability, not to see disability as a risk or a cost. To create awareness and sensitization around workplace inclusion, around reasonable accommodation. Today, most of us are working from home, and this is what reasonable accommodation is all about. So people with disabilities need similar adjustments in their everyday work life, and this is something which is very doable. And many of organizations who are recognized in the past and present have been practicing reasonable accommodation and equal opportunity policy within their systems. Another area to work on, which with NCPEDP we realize, is promoting entrepreneurs with disability, promoting self-employment, promoting employment which people with disabilities can carry during staying where they are from. Doesn't matter which part of the country they belong to, but without having to migrate only because of employment. So, there are many opportunities where we need to look at collaborations with government initiatives, like with SMEs or MSMEs and many other initiatives which government has been promoting to promote entrepreneurship in the country. And without taking much time, I would again like to welcome each one of you to this 22nd NCPEDP-MIndtree Helen Keller Award 2021. I look forward to your continuous support and helping us to take this initiative forward. Thank you so much. Over to you, Sangeeta ji.
Thank you very much, Armanji, for setting the ball rolling for this wonderful event. Friends, we are joined by Mr. Panish Rao, Head Sustainability-MIndtree. Panish Rao is a career human resources professional with a successful track record spanning across industries and geographies. His rich experience spans the entire HR spectrum, including strategy, career development, organization development, compensation and benefits, and M&As. Earlier, Panish has led the HR function of L&T Technology Services globally. Prior to LTTS, he was the HR leader for Atos, India, and the Middle East. Panish holds a master's degree in personnel management from Symbiosis Institute of Business Management, Pune. May I request you, Mr. Panish Rao, to deliver the keynote address.
Thank you, Sangeeta ji. It's a great honor to be amongst this august gathering. My greetings to all the dignitaries, a warm welcome to all the participants, congratulations to the awardees, and special thanks to NCPEDP for this opportunity. Most of us have known and heard the inspiring stories of Helen Keller, Stephen Hawking, Nicholas James, Ravindra Jain, and so on. But we may not have heard about a Sudhakar, a Beneka, or a Chandra who lived with us, suffering the demons they were presented with for no fault of theirs. Yet they go about their daily lives with a smile on their face and with dignity. It is the dignity that we must strive to restore, not because they are helpless, but because they deserve it as much as any other human on this earth. In fact, whenever I hear the word inclusion, I invariably think why we historically excluded someone or a community in the first place. People with disabilities were traditionally seen as people who needed help, who are dependent, and who are basically receivers. The narrative significantly changes when the same person is empowered to be the giver. Once a person begins the journey from being dependent to independent to interdependent, the transformation from receiver to the giver starts, and so does the path of dignity. During the conversation with my team in Mindtree, we always remind each other that our goals is not to help the marginalized, but to empower so that they earn a sustainable living and start the journey from being a receiver to being a giver. Looking around this virtual room, the participants in this online NCPEDP-MIndtree Helen Keller Awards, I feel a sense of pride and privilege to be among such inspiring givers. Everyone, whether you have won the award or not, is a winner, is a giver in the larger scheme of things. You are such an inspiration. Please do continue the journey. It's a privilege to be partnering with NCPEDP for the last several years in pursuing our goal to promote equal opportunity and employment, and honor individuals who inspire the world to embrace the cause of accelerating inclusion. Be the giver. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Rao. Really well spoken. These awardees are true givers, as you put it, and there is so much to learn from each one of them. I agree with you completely. So with that, friends, we start with the first category for the awards. So this is category A, persons with disabilities from within the disability sector and outside who have worked for the cause of employment for people with disabilities and are a role model for all. The first recipient, Dr. Sharad Phillip Md, Senior Resident, National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, NIMHANS. Dr. Sharad is a psychiatrist and family medicine practitioner trained from prestigious institutions like NIMHANS Bangalore and CMC Vellore. His work in psychiatric rehabilitation involves facilitating employment, education, and housing support for clients alongside their mental health care. He has been engaged in various state government programs and community outreach programs. He has also been an ardent disability rights champion, being a member of the Institute's Accessibility Audit and Persons with Disabilities Committees during his tenure. May we have the video of Dr. Sharad Phillip.
Hello and good day to all of you. I just want to thank all of you at the NCPEDP and the jury and the selection committee for considering me for the NCPEDP-MIndtree Helen Keller Award for role models for persons with disabilities. I'm Sharad Philip, trained as a psychiatrist and family medicine practitioner. I work towards better inclusion, community integration for persons with disabilities due to severe mental health conditions, intellectual developmental disorders, autism spectrum disorders. I also advocate for visually impaired healthcare professionals with disabilities. I want to emphasize only one thing, and I live by that principle. That's nothing about us without us. And I really seek your help in mainstreaming all the advocacy issues for these persons with disabilities. Let's make it a better India for all persons with disabilities. Thank you.
That's Dr. Sharat Philip receiving this prestigious award. A great gesture on the part of Mindtree and NCPEDP this year is that the awards have been handed over personally to each recipient. The next awardee in this category, Dr. Jayanti Bhai Bhim Patel, Secretary, Service Association for the Blind. After getting a BA, B.Ed and diploma in physiotherapy, Jayanti Bhai worked as a physiotherapist in Civil Hospital Himmatnagar and Gandhinagar and serving as many as 4.5 lakh patients during his tenure. He also helped in getting employment to about 51 candidates in sectors like banking, physiotherapy, higher education, and self-employment. In the appreciation of his devotion, he got several awards like Jagdish Patel Award, Alpai Vilas Award 2019, and also received 3 awards from the government of Gujarat. Presently, he is rendering his invaluable service to the School for the Blind Gandhinagar as General Secretary. So let's hear it from the recipient himself, Dr. Jayanti Bhai Bhim Patel.
मैं लायन डॉक्टर JB पटेल इस साल का हेलन केलर पारितोषिक विजेता सादर नमस्कार करता हूं। मुझे जब NCPDC के ईमेल से सूचित किया गया कि हेलन केलर अवार्ड के लिए मुझे चुना गया है तो मेरी खुशी का कोई ठिकाना न रहा। प्रभु प्रयास से मैं मेरे शक्तिबाधित साथियों की भलाई के लिए प्रयासरत हूँ। मेरे इस प्रयास को ध्यान में लेते हुए NCPEDC संस्था मुझे हेलन केलर प्रतिष्ठित पारितोषिक प्रदान करने जा रही है। इसके लिए मैं उसका तहे दिल से शुक्रगुजार हूँ। जय हिंद।
Dr. Jayanti Bhai Bhim Patel आपको हेलन केलर अवार्ड की हार्दिक शुभकामनाएं. That's him receiving the award. The next recipient, Natasha Pinto, Global Co-Lead of the Accessibility Network, LSEG London Stock Exchange Group. Natasha Pinto is the Global Co-Lead of the Accessibility Network at London Stock Exchange Group based in Bangalore, leading a passionate and diverse team at LSEG. She is an advocate of diversity and inclusion and is involved in enabling, supporting, and promoting a disability-inclusive environment within and outside her organization with a focus on invisible illnesses. She played a significant role in contributing towards the welfare of the disabled community through a multitude of inclusive initiatives, such as ensuring subtitles in all global corporate videos, focusing on digital and physical accessibility. Natasha enjoys going on adventures and stepping outside her comfort zone. Natasha has run marathons, skydived, bungee jumped, climbed a mountain in the Himalayas, backpacked across Europe, all the while redefining and breaking stereotypical mindsets of what the disabled community can achieve. Natasha Pinto. Let's hear it from her.
I'm honored to receive the NCPEDP-MIndtree Helen Keller Award. My name is Natasha Pinto, and I lead a passionate team in order management Bangalore. And I also co-lead the LSEG Accessibility Network globally, which is currently in over 10 plus locations, with the mission of building and sustaining an inclusive environment for all our people with disabilities to reach their full potential. I work closely with the Valuable 500 commitment, which focuses on putting disability on the business leadership agenda. And I've also initiated and rolled out the Disability Guidebook to all our employees. I believe we needed to disrupt the way the world perceives disability, and this is possible only through education, raising awareness, and building a more accessible world. Remember, disability is not a bad word. And the opposite of ability is not disability, it is inability. Kick the stigma out, be mindful of your unconscious biases, embrace and celebrate the differences. Thank you and stay safe.
That's a wonderful Natasha, beautiful within and without, receiving this coveted award. And now, friends, we have a special mention jury award. Brace yourselves up. Mansi Girish Chandra Joshi, World Para Badminton Champion. Mansi Girish Chandra Joshi is an Indian para badminton player, current world champion, and a change maker. She aims to drive a shift in the discourse around disability and para sports in India and across the world. A software engineer by profession, Mansi started her sporting journey in 2015, and at present, she is ranked world number 2 in women's singles. From setting examples to breaking stereotypes, Mansi has been a trailblazer ever since she took up para sport following a road accident in 2011. Mansi, through her work, is directly and indirectly reaching out to countless individuals, both from the disabled as well as the non-disabled community. Her contribution to the Paralympic movement in India has been significant. She successfully advocated for the use of sports as a tool for changing lives and contributing to an all-inclusive society as a game changer. She has been actively using her voice and fighting for the rights of people with disabilities, thereby changing the ground reality for herself and that of her fellow community members. Let's hear it from Mansi Girish Chandra Joshi.
Hi everyone, this is Mansi Joshi, para badminton athlete and current para badminton world champion. Thank you for recognizing me and giving me this honor. Thank you to NCPEDP Mindtree and for giving me the special jury Helen Keller 2021 awards. I'm very happy to see that this organization is not only promoting individuals but also organizations that are doing some path-breaking works in promoting employment for people with disabilities. I have experienced life as a person without disability as well as disability, and I have faced multiple discrimination, exclusion, and disparity in quality of life. I feel this award shines some spotlight on organizations and on the movement that the organization is part of. At individual level, I'm extremely happy, feel celebrated, included, and recognized. Thank you to all the jury members for recognizing me. Thank you to NCPEDP, Mindtree, and everyone right now listening to me.
That's Mansi's brother with the award on her behalf. Friends, another jury award which deserves special mention goes to Kanchanmala D. Pandey. Kanchanmala D. Pandey is an international para swimmer with 100% visual impairment, a Class 1 officer in the Reserve Bank of India, and a crusader for employment of persons with disabilities. Kanchanmala was adjudged world champion in World Para Swimming Championship 2017. She has won about 112 medals at international, national, and state levels, apart from participation in the Commonwealth Games 2006 at Australia, FESPIC Games 2006 at Malaysia, Para-Asian Games 2010 at China, IPSA World Games in South Korea, IPC World Championships at Scotland, Mexico, and London, and sea swimming competitions of the Indian Navy, and numerous other tournaments. She is the first ever visually impaired para swimmer to win a gold medal for India in the World Championship and participate in 3 World Championships consecutively. While serving as Class 1 officer in the Reserve Bank of India, Kanchanmala has been accorded Zone of Excellence in Sports by the Reserve Bank. Let's hear it from this para-athlete Kanchanmala.
I really feel honored to receive Mindtree NCPEDP Helen Keller Award. This will really encourage me to keep on working for the employment of disabled people, including blind. I'm a grade A officer in RBI myself. I'm working with NGOs like DARE and Vibiva. And also I'm a world champion international para swimmer with 112 medals, and keep on motivating blind students. Thank you.
That's Kanchanmala with her award. More power to you, Kanchanmala. Thank you very much. Now that brings us to the end of one part of the awards. We will continue with the awards in a while. But for now, I'd like to invite Mr. Pradeep Gupta, jury chair, to say a few words. Mr. Pradeep Gupta is the chairman of the Cyber Media Group, the specialty media house with brands like DataQuest, PCQuest, Voice and Data, DARE, CIOL, and Global Services. Pradeep was conferred the National Entrepreneurship Award as the Best Mentor by the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Government of India. He is also the recipient of the Distinguished Alumni Award of IIT Delhi and IIM Calcutta, and the Helen Keller Award for his contribution in the disability sector. Over to you, Mr. Pradeep Gupta.
Thank you very much, Geeta. And indeed, the Helen Keller Award is something that I very proudly cherish. I don't know whether it is visible or not right now. Oops, I think it is, yes. So, which I got it in the second year of once the Helen Keller Awards started off. This is the 22nd edition of the NCPEDP-MIndtree Helen Keller Awards. It started in '99, as Sangeeta shared with all the delegates who are attending this award function. As a result of a survey which was conducted, which showed really very low amount of entrepreneurship, which was very small of employability, which was amongst companies. And the objective was that can we start a discussion around this? Can we celebrate role models? Can we talk about companies which are employment friendly and so on? And we brought this entire issue center stage from something which was initially completely ignored. So to begin with, I would also like to thank my fellow jury members. And I would request that, those who are there on this call would please switch on their videos. Mr. Abraham Moses, General Manager of Mindtree Foundation. We had Dr. Vanita Vishwanath, Chairperson of Ajivika Trust. Mr. Ravindra Singh, the CEO of SCPWD. And Mr. P. Rajashekharan, co-founder of Vishesh Learning Services Private Limited. I must say that, yes, I can see Abraham Moses there. If there are other jury members, then, please switch on your videos. Like to thank Arman and his team for putting together very, very, rich data behind the deliberations that the jury went through. Our task was very difficult because there were a number of deserving candidates and we had to select the very best out of the various nominations that we had received. Having said that, I must say that the ultimate selection was entirely unanimous, thanks to the contribution from different jury members and sharing, the excellent feedback on different kind of work done by different candidates. This year, of course, as Sangeeta had mentioned earlier, we have an additional category also. We thought that because of, a lot of startup activity, we must recognize entrepreneurs with disabilities. So that's a new category that has been introduced this year. I would like to thank NCPEDP. This is the 6th year that NCPEDP and Mindtree are working together for the Helen Keller Awards. And I'm sure that this relationship will last for several decades. So once again, I would like to thank NCPEDP. I would like to thank my fellow jury members for selecting the best and recognizing people who have indeed made a significant contribution as far as the disability movement in India is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gupta. So we now continue with the awards. Moving on to category B. Category B is role model supporter of increased employment opportunities for persons with disabilities. Individuals from within the disability sector or outside who have contributed substantially to the cause of promoting employment opportunities for people with disabilities over an extended period of time. The first recipient of this award is Ms. Chamki Dutta, Founder Secretary, Vriddhi Training Cum Production Center. Ms. Dutta is a hands-on entrepreneur of an advertising agency, a rights activist for vulnerable communities, and an advocate of women's empowerment. In 1993, at the age of 28, she started Mastermind Advertising Services, which is among the top 10 advertisement agencies of Odisha. In 2017, she started Mastermind Livelihood to train and provide livelihood support to differently abled people. She has designed and managed many campaigns to promote awareness among persons with disabilities. She is the founder secretary of Vriddhi Training Cum Production Center, and SHG owned and managed by differently abled people, including the person with intellectual disabilities. On 3rd December 2017, the International Day of Persons with Disability, she was awarded Best Self-Employed with Disabilities by the Honorable President, Shri Ramnath Kovind ji. Let's hear it from the recipient herself.
First of all, I would like to thank NCPEDP for conferring the Mindtree Helen Keller Award 2021. I was always inspired by the work done by Javed Avidi, who was so passionate and dedicated to the work he was doing. And this made me to start Vriddhi Training Cum Production Center, a producer group of differently abled young adults. Vriddhi Exotica is the brand under which we are making our different type of products. Here we are manufacturing natural handmade soaps, scented candles, varieties of agarbatti and calendar notebooks. It is an initiative of Department of SSCPD, Government of Orissa and Ministry of Labour and Employment, Government of India. I once again thank NCPEDP for conferring the Mindtree Helen Keller Award 2021. Thank you.
There is Ms. Chamki Dutta receiving the prestigious Helen Keller Award. This award was also conferred upon Ms. Shashwati P., Diversity and Inclusion Consultant. Shashwati empowers organizations in their diversity and inclusion journey. As a D&I consultant, she presents business cases for disability inclusion at the workplace. She helps companies embrace the best practices for employing and supporting persons with disabilities in their workforce. Shashwati has worked with multinational companies to ensure that the workplaces hire talent with disabilities and the environment is inclusive of persons with disabilities. Along with designing of many programs, she has successfully facilitated various sessions on disability inclusion at the workplace, touching about 450 plus senior leaders and 4,000 plus employees across organizations. An alumnus from FMS Delhi, Shashwati is passionate about disability inclusion at the workplace.
Hi, I'm Shashwati and I empower organizations in their diversity and inclusion journeys. As a D&I consultant, I focus on assessing, bridging gaps, and presenting business cases for disability inclusive policy adoption. I've had a wonderful opportunity to work with hundreds of senior leaders, managers, hiring, and talent acquisition teams to make workplaces more welcoming and inclusive of persons with disabilities. This is such an honor. I'm so grateful to be winning this incredible NCPEDP Mindtree Helen Keller Award. I truly appreciate this recognition. I sincerely thank each person I encountered in this wonderful journey of disability inclusion. Showed me a whole new world and a lot to look forward to. Thank you, the jury. I promise to only get better at my work so that diverse, inclusive, and accessible workplaces are a lived reality for most of us in the near future. Thank you.
There we see Shashwati receiving the award from Mr. Panish Rao, Head Sustainability Mindtree, and Mr. Abraham Moses, GM Mindtree. More power to you, Shashwati. May you go places. The next recipient, friends, is Dr. Sharanjeet Kaur, Vice President and Chairperson, Haryana Welfare Society for Persons with Speech and Hearing Impairment. Dr. Sharanjeet Kaur has been associated with the Haryana Welfare Society for Persons with Speech and Hearing Impairment for over 27 years now in various capacities, from being a trainee to the Vice President and Chairperson of the Society. She has made humongous efforts for quality education I beg your pardon?
जब मैंने इसमें ज्वाइन किया तो सिर्फ 2 ही पीएन इसमें डेफ लोग काम करते थे और मेरे जहन में एक ही सवाल उठता था कि जिनकी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है उन्हीं के द्वारा इसको चलाया जाना चाहिए। इसमें अब हम पिछले 4 साल में 40 लोगों को, डेफ लोगों को इसमें एम्प्लॉयमेंट दिया है, जो डिफरेंट टीचर्स हैं, हाउस मदर हैं, असिस्टेंट हाउस मदर हैं, ड्राइंग टीचर हैं। तो मेरा आने वाले भविष्य में मैं उम्मीद रखती हूँ कि हम एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में, जिसमें हायर पोजीशन, जिसमें प्रिंसिपल होंगे, चेयरपर्सन होंगे, तो जब वो हम कर लेंगे तो मुझे लगता है कि जो हमारा सपना है वो पूरा होगा। इसके लिए मैं NCPEDP माइंडट्री हेलन केलर अवार्ड के लिए मैं इस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का धन्यवाद करती हूँ कि जो ऐसे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का हौसला अफजाई करते हैं। तो इसके लिए हम तहे दिल से आपके आभारी
हैं। That was Dr. Sharanjeet Kaur, associated with the Haryana Welfare Society for Persons with Speech and Hearing Impairment. Congratulations, Dr. Kaur. Now, friends, we move on to Category C. Category C is role model companies, NGOs, and institutions. Organizations from the disability sector or outside who have shown their commitment towards promoting equal employment opportunities for people with disabilities and have thus made a significant contribution in empowering them through financial independence. The first recipient is Sarthak Educational Trust, New Delhi. Sarthak Educational Trust is an NGO which is working towards the empowerment of persons with disability. Today, inclusion, empowerment, and mainstreaming of persons with disabilities is the guiding principle of Sarthak Educational Trust through its dedicated efforts in the areas of early intervention, inclusive education, skill building, placement, and advocacy. Dr. Jitendra Agarwal, founder and CEO, Sarthak Educational Trust, will now tell us more about their work.
Sarthak is pioneer in creating employment for people with disability, especially in Indian private sector. In last 13 years, Sarthak has economically empowered around 35,000 people with all disabilities, operates in around 15 states of India, and is worked with 1,500 Indian private corporate houses. That includes IT, BPO, retail, hospitality, manufacturing, e-commerce, banking, and insurance. Across the sector, people with disability has been hired. In last 2 years, Sarthak has transformed from physical to digital. All Sarthak programs are delivered through online medium. And we have come up with a Cap Sarthi app to outreach people with disability in rural part of India, and coming up with a accessible job portal called Rozgar Sarthi. Congratulations to NCPEDP for organizing these awards since last 22 years. These are really incentive to Indian government, incentive to Indian corporates and non-profit organization. My best wishes to NCPEDP, and thank you very much for choosing Sarthak for this award.
Friends, Sarthak is at present in 23 locations. It has been involved with capacity building programs, accessible event management support, online parents interaction forum, and with several other initiatives. There you see a representative of Sarthak receiving the coveted Helen Keller Award. The next recipient in this category, friends, is Kendua Dihi Bikash Society. Kendua Dihi Bikash Society is an NGO working for the cause of disability in Bankura district of West Bengal since 1996. Operating in rural areas, there is always a dearth of livelihood opportunities. Thus, they adopted the motto, early childhood to livelihood, focusing on early identification and intervention of children with disabilities and providing them with special education and rehabilitation services. Pre-vocational and vocational training is provided to trainable children from 12 plus and 14 plus years of age. PWDs above 18 years of age are formed into self-help groups, imparted skill training, and provided marketing support so that they can, by and large, compete in the open labor market with their non-disabled peers. Consequently, many persons with disabilities trained by the Kendua Dihi Bikash Society have now become income earners through employment as well as self-employment. Mr. Uttam Mukherjee, founder of Kendua Dihi Bikash Society, will now tell us about the work that they do.
Sangeeta ma'am, can we start fireside chat?
Okay, sure.
Yeah, Mr. Premji is here.
Friends, we'll take a break from the award ceremony. We are now joined by our honorable guest of honor, Mr. Rishad Premji. Mr. Rishad Premji is the executive chairman of Wipro Limited, a $10 billion global information technology, consulting and business process services company with 220,000 employees in 6 continents. Rishad joined Wipro in 2007 and worked in several roles before becoming the executive chairman in 2019. Rishad believes that the culture of an organization is its strongest asset and has worked tirelessly to ensure that every Wiproite understands and upholds the values of Wipro, articulated as the spirit of Wipro. Rishad is on the boards of Wipro Enterprises Limited, Wipro GE, and the Azim Premji Foundation, which is focused on improving public school education, works with 350,000 government schools across 7 states in India. Rishad has an MBA from the Harvard Business School and a BA in economics from Wesleyan University in the US. I now invite Mr. Rishad Premji to have a fireside chat with our chairperson, Mr. Som Mittal. Over to you, Mr. Mittal.
Thank you, Sangeeta, and welcome. Before I welcome you formally, I just wanted to acknowledge and thank our sign language interpreters, Ria and Sarah. Thank you very much for the amazing job that you do and reaching our message to the large number of people who are hearing impaired, and thank you for your effort. Rishad, thank you for being here. I know this is kind of peak time for you, given your global presence and being here. But I know why you're here, and that is because Wipro has been extremely committed to the cause of the disabled. You have made the infrastructure, the policies and processes to support employment for disabled in a very, very structured way. It's no wonder to us that Wipro themselves has been the recipient of the Helen Keller Award that we are giving out every year, and this year as well. And that was for 3 years. We have stopped giving this award to you, Rishad, because we think we should have more people coming in, because we know that you are committed to this. And we have seen that every year you have gone beyond what you had achieved the previous year. So while we applaud the effort of Wipro and a few other corporations to put a very structured process, the actual employment and the financial independence of the disabled is rather low, and we still have a long way to go. We realize it's a journey, but I think we need to see progress happening. Our discussions today will largely be centered around this, to know the challenges and success that you have had and the possible ideas to enhance. I just wanted to add to Sangeeta's introduction to you. We have been colleagues in a lot of ways, but while Wipro is probably today well known for its IT and services prowess, but Wipro is a highly diversified company with Wipro Consumer. The fact that Wipro actually started as vegetable oil and continues to support that area, hydraulics and many other areas. So the perspectives that we get is not only from a services perspective, but also from manufacturing and a company that is into consumer products as well. So Rishad, let me just start, because this is a fireside. We didn't want you to give a little talk, but share your experiences. What has been the motivation for you, and also the experience, and does it continue to be a priority like it was at one time?
First of all, thanks, Som, for those kind words. Thanks for having me here. This is an important subject, and it's great to be talking to you. We've known each other for many years. You spent a lot of time at Wipro as well, so it's great to be amongst friends. Look, so I'll tell you a couple of things. One is, as a company, so we've always believed importantly that we cannot be divorced from the communities in which we live and breathe. And that's been a strong sentiment and ethos in the company for a long time, that we are very much a part of the communities in which we live and breathe holistically, right? One. Two, diversity has been an important agenda for the company. And to me, disability is a core part of human diversity. And so that's been an area of focus simply by being a core part of diversity. But diversity in itself shows up in sort of numbers and form. Inclusion is as much important. And sometimes it's more important to drive inclusiveness as opposed to driving purely the diversity. And inclusiveness has been a strong mindset in the company. And so we've been very, very open, to the mindset of being inclusive from the get-go. So this has been an initiative for us for over 10 years in terms of how can we be more inclusive to people with disability. Today at the company, we have roughly 700 people who are employed in the company across 14 different disabilities. 70% of those people are based in India. The remaining 30% are based largely between Europe and the US. But that, frankly, is still a small fraction of the 230,000 people we have across the company. I think a couple of things that have helped us. One is we've been very purposeful about it. We've not let it be incidental, but a core part of our overall diversity and inclusion agenda, which our chief culture officer of the company, Sunita, drives today. So it's very much a senior leader conversation, an important conversation inside of the company. We've tried to do a couple of things that has enabled this, right? We've tried to do things inside the organization which allows for this. One is we've tried to drive a great amount of digital accessibility inside the organization, whether it be meeting standards on web content availability or other forms like, accessible help desks, etc. We've tried to drive great focus on infrastructure, availability and accessibility. And that's been an important, probably the most core thing that we've tried to do. All of our new campuses are now meeting UN standards. Most of our campuses have been retrofitted to be able to be disability friendly. And that's been an important orientation and focus for us. A huge amount of focus on training. So training in terms of how do you drive And how do you have educated trainers who can drive both inclusive and exclusive sessions for people so that they can be more mainstream and part of the system? And then a strong mindset on awareness, just, breaking some of the myths that exist, frankly, unfortunately, with people with disabilities. So some of these things have been quite purposeful over the course of the last several years. But, I'm still, we're still a small fraction in terms of the potential that we have and the size of the organization. But I think we've made some progress, and we're proud of that progress we've made.
So Rishad, as we meet corporates and, we've done surveys, we found, what are the challenges that you face, right? Some of them you mentioned already, that by training and changing perceptions of people within. But what are the challenges that you face in terms of increasing the number, say, to a percentage? With 700 is the number. I think there are 700 lives and their families that you have changed. But what are the challenges that you face?
So one, Som, I will tell you, it starts with intent. And I think our intent, at least I would hope to like to believe that our intent is in the right place, right? The challenge oftentimes comes in execution, but even starting with the right intent, I think, is important. I'll tell you the kinds of challenges that I see, that people see. One is just a lack of, great integration upfront. How do you ensure that people are integrated and assimilated into the overall fabric of the organization, as opposed to treated specially and separately? I don't think it serves people who are disabled to be treated outside the overall fabric and truly integrated into the overall fabric of the organization. I think we and organizations can do a better job of that. Two is, a lack of career path. And how do we have a long-term and clear and sustained career path for people? Oftentimes people have jobs, and how can they grow into bigger and bigger jobs, I think, is also important. That's an evolving thinking. We've not sort of fully mastered that. How do we ensure that people are given sort of appropriate work, right? Contextually relevant work, and work that people are capable of delivering. Continue to drive accessibility of workspaces. That is less of a challenge for us, but I think is a challenge generally. Probably the most important challenge that people with disability face in terms of being part of organizations, especially in the pre-COVID world. And then the last thing, which I think is incredibly important, is this whole challenge in socializing. How do you become an integral part of the organization? How are you not treated as special? How are you inculcated into the organization? And a lot of that comes from breaking perceptions and myths that exist about people, right? Capability perception, awkwardness in terms of how do you engage with people of disability. So how do we help people truly assimilate? And for those that assimilate, I think succeed significantly more than not. A couple of things we've tried to do. One is we have a full-time SME expert who's also, in our case, visually impaired, but who's playing a very active role to be cognizant of these challenges, some of which we face, some of which are that exist, and how do we sort of drive continuous awareness to overcome them and to address them. But equally importantly, I think, this is an odd thing to say, but there's safety in numbers. There's also relevance and visibility in numbers. And so how do we constantly drive a mindset of increasing the numbers? Because when it gets to a certain scale, it becomes omnipresent, as opposed to the minority exception that's hidden aside from the mainstream of the organization. So there's a big focus also in terms of how do we drive scale and focus on driving scale across assimilation for people with disabilities.
So, you mentioned about this awkwardness, and, our earlier work showed that everybody is well-intending, but the managers, for example, don't know how to deal. And because, like you mentioned about assimilation, etc., do they show sympathy, or do they treat a co-worker as a co-worker? So this sensitization program that you have goes across. It's become a mandate for everybody to understand. If I take 700 employees that you have, and between all of them, maybe there are about 100 managers, overseeing them, maybe 200 managers who oversee them. But across the organization, is there a sensitization as well?
So I'll be honest, I don't know if we do a good job in terms of broad-based sensitization. I think we can do a much better job. And as I said, as scale builds, that becomes more and more relevant. Today, I think the sensitization perhaps is restricted to the teams that are engaging or to the managers who have people with disabilities in their teams. Equally, we need to sensitize the teams themselves, right? Because you're working with your manager in some capacity, but you're also working with your colleagues to a great extent. And so there's a sensitization happening there as well. And I'm a big believer in the younger generation. I think that's a very powerful thing. And the fact that our average age is 29, the fact that we have many people joining us from campus, I find the mind space and the mindset of the younger generation very different on just issues of relevance to the communities in which we live and breathe. So people with disabilities is one, the whole focus on the environment and sustainability, the philosophy more holistically on diversity and inclusion. These are just important things that the young care deeply and passionately about. And so their openness to discuss this, to incorporate it into their thinking, to learn, I think is very high. So that also gives us great comfort. But specifically, I think we can be doing a better job, and there's a focus on how we can drive more broad-based sensitization. I think that will also come with scale building around this.
So Rishad, you mentioned something which is interesting about, appropriate job and, a career path for people. It's often said that people with disability actually excel in their jobs. And we have had some very heartwarming stories as well of people with disability who've done well. Since there is a large audience here listening to this, we want to say to them that, look, you are performers. What has been your experience?
No, absolutely. So, let me be just, it may sound crass. This is not, a CSR initiative within Wipro. This is a mainstream initiative of driving inclusiveness because there's talent and we need talent as an organization, right? So it's a very purposeful thing that helps the company. And that's very important. 83% of those 700 people today are billable people. That means they're doing custom development code or software testing or quality testing or customer service, right? 83% of people are doing billable roles inside of the company. And that's incredibly important. So there's a very, very strong orientation to mainstream jobs. 17% of people are doing jobs in other areas that are incredibly important to the company. And these ratios are not too dissimilar to the rest of the company, right? So it's very, very mainstreamized jobs of relevance and value add to the company. And that's our objective. We're not going to hire people to meet a number quotient. We're going to hire people that have a skill set and how we can help. There's certainly a lot of focus on how we can help further train people, how we can make sure we're giving special attention so people have the ability to skill up and move up in the organization. And that's a purposeful effort depending on the needs, but it's very much a value-adding role inside of the organization. And so people should feel very proud of what they do and not grateful for having these jobs.
I think that's well said. So, we've been struggling. There is a demand side, which you covered, that, look, there is talent required. And then there is supply side issues. So, most of our corporates are located in the urban areas. But then if you look at the disability and, we are really disappointed that there is no data really available on disability. We have 21 disabilities that are now recognized by the government. Our estimate is there are 8 crore people who are disabled. And I'm not really counting people who are disabled because of age, because, they may not be into the category of employment here. So, I'm shifting the topic from Wipro mainstream to how do we get people who are in the rural areas, right, and semi-urban, where probably we don't have campuses like yours. How do we get them involved? I know that the Azim Premji Foundation does a lot of work in education. And, when we started this journey on NCPEDP, we realized that employment is probably the last of the stuff. We have to do a lot of prerequisites, including education as one of them, getting the right skills. Do you think, in the education programs that companies run, and I found that 45% of most CSR money is spent on education, we're saying don't spend it on separately, but can it be for education specifically for the disabled, which is more difficult than the normal?
Yeah. So a couple of things, Som, on this. One is, I think COVID has changed the perception of, how talent can be included and how talent can be accessed. And you know this better than as all of us, right? It certainly changed the mindset at Wipro more holistically, where just generally there's a huge mismatch between demand and supply of talent. And so we are becoming much, much more open to where our talent sits. And the reality is today, with 95% of our employees working from home, 40% of our people working from their hometowns, perhaps many of them in small towns and villages. I was talking to an ex-colleague who actually grew up in a small village, saying my village is buzzing with people from the IT sector who are back over COVID, right? So there's a real opportunity for people to be moving back and working. And very selfishly, from a company's perspective, it allows us to access more talent, whether it be women who want more flexibility, whether it be people with disabilities. So I think there's a natural advantage that has been built in terms of just more inclusivity outside the big cities, right? People had to come into the big cities, accessing them, living in them was not easy. That makes it easier. So hopefully that will also bode well for people with disabilities to be more and more mainstreamized into the workforce. And hopefully we should be able to see this in the numbers over the course of the next 12 to 24 months. That's one. Two is, the Azim Premji Foundation. So one is, you're right, a lot of our focus has been on education. But over the last 6 years, so one of the things we've been doing is we've been a very active grant-making organization to areas of vulnerability, one of which is people with disabilities. So we've actually committed, I'm quite proud to say, quite substantively, we support 54 NGOs today. We've committed about 230 crores to organizations supporting people with disabilities. Now, in all fairness, our work on supporting rural livelihoods is still, for people with disabilities, is still in its infancy. A lot of our work today is on early intervention, prevention, early intervention, sort of solving the problem, aids and appliances, entitlements, access to education, those kinds of things, even in trying to support NGOs that can prevent things. I'm not an expert, but oftentimes you hear that a lot of cases of blindness can be prevented if handled early on, right? So there's a lot of elements of prevention that we also can be driving. So that's been a big, big focus for us at the foundation. One of the things that I'm proud of, and I know we work with NCPEDP here on this, where we provide support to fellows. We support 25 fellows a year that are working, and they are disabled people who are working to deep dive into areas of disability, so we can bring awareness and bring change to those areas. So I would submit the work on rural livelihoods is still early, at least for us, both at the foundation and certainly at Wipro. But there's a conscious effort to change from addressing the problem to now making it focusing on sustainability and livelihood and just making a good quality living as well.
Rishad, since you mentioned the grant that you have given to NCPEDP for the fellowship, I was part of the team which went through the applications, and you were very happy. We had a deluge of applications, people wanting to do this, and very many of the people who are now fellows of the APPI program are actually in the rural areas, right? And these people, we were very, very surprised that while we do talk about how higher education is not available, they were all people with fairly educated backgrounds, right? So they have honed that skill and with that disability. So we hope this program will lead to, I would say, a better understanding. So our motto in NCPEDP and the disability group is nothing about us without us. And I think these people are the ones who are going to then give us better ways to do it.
So there's one more thing on that. I think the other thing that I noticed quite visibly, and this is where we've tried to combine, our work in education with our focus on in people with disabilities, is we need a lot more trained people. We need a lot more experts who understand this. So one of the things we try to do is combine our learning from what we're learning with the NGOs to combine that with what we do in education at the university, and how can we drive more courses on, on inclusive education and learning disability, and how can we have more people graduating with certificates, with diplomas that can then become more mainstreamized, right? As you said, you were very impressed that these people from rural parts of the country are actually quite educated. How can we have more people? How can we have people sort of spreading the word? And I think that's a big challenge as well for us as a nation, bringing people into the foray who understand this as a subject matter of expertise, and they can also significantly help on many fronts, certainly with advocacy, in government, but on many, many different fronts with organizations like Wipro as well.
Right. So, our focus as NCPEDP is largely policy advocacy, and we work across disability. I think the issues that we also see in employment is particularly from the rural areas, that they still need support physically when they are at home, right? And to uproot them from rural areas to semi-urban actually is not so easy for many of them to do it, and hence they land up really back in the. So your mention about how the COVID actually, with all its negatives, that did create some new opportunities, and I hope it takes off. A more general question. There are, you look at the priorities today. Everyone on this call and this Zoom is really committed to the disability, right? And we step out, and there are these other needs that come in. Right, you mentioned about other livelihoods. So the country has a large number of problems. We do feel that in these problems, the disabled get even more marginalized, right? So, they don't get the right to education, or they don't get education. People don't know how to deal. So how do you think we can bring this priority up? Because if you look at 8 crore people with disabilities, that's a very significant population. People may argue it's 8 or 7, but it's pretty large, whatever number we come up with. How do we make it a national priority?
Yeah, I think one thing is we have to start by acknowledging that unfortunately disability is not mainstreamized and well integrated into our societal systems, right? And how do we drive that agenda? And, if we just pick education as a subject, I think the one good news and the fabulous thing about the national education policy is a strong mention and a special emphasis on quality education for those that are disadvantaged, those that are marginalized, and those that are underrepresented, right? And I think that's a very powerful start in terms of how do we drive it. A strong mention on how do we leverage technology to bring and mainstreamize people who've been left on the corner as a part of it. And I think that's a great start. We've got to focus on things like, there's a lot of focus spent on education, but focus on inclusive education, and the budgets for inclusive education are quite limited. So, there are great opportunities as NEP goes into implementation to direct this in a manner in which there are more budgets for inclusive education. There's a strong emphasis and focus on people that are marginalized and disadvantaged. And I think that's one element. I think the other element, which again, I'm not an expert, but, is this right of Persons with Disability Act, right? And how do we use that more powerfully? How do we advocate that for everybody, including organizations in the country, to truly have an equal employment opportunity, DNA and fabric and ability, right? I'm not sure, I don't know one way or the other. I'm not sure if that exists, but how do we drive that in a much more systematic manner, right? We've tried to do that, again, to some extent, but we can be scaling more, and that's a focus inside of the organization as to how we focus more. But at least creating that opportunity so someone is not at a loss even before they start, someone is not disadvantaged even before they've started, I think is an important thing. And we can be driving both organizations like NCPEDP as well as working with government to drive that awareness and to push that requirement within government. Yeah. So both in terms of the new NEP, I think, which is very powerful, and we can play a catalytic role in the implementation and how that morphs and actually becomes, as well as with things like the right to disability, the right of person with disability, the Act.
The Right of Disability People Act, we're very enthused that the government did this, but we're still, don't see the implementation both in letter and spirit yet. So, we have actually made every corporate by law is supposed to have an equal opportunity policy, but, putting it in law is easier, and you can put a tick in the box, you can have a policy, but, there is a lot of stuff that you mentioned that are prerequisites to be able to do that. But maybe there's a starting point which says, okay, I have a policy now, let's go and get started. This probably is the last question, and then I leave you to give me some overviews if you have to. What is the message that you would give? There are about 700-800 people on this call right now, and this is going to have a large visibility because this is continuing going to stream. And Rishad, we're going to take some of your points mentioned here to be able to show it to the other corporates as well as to what you are doing. What is the message for people with disability when they seek employment? Is there any guidance you'd like to give them? Any suggestions you have to them?
No, the only one thought I have, Som, is a strong mindset of integration. And I think that's very much the intent, from the community at large. But how can they also help organizations with that mindset? Because I think people on the other side struggle more. But I think true integration is, to me, is the name of the game, right? Because you become part of the organization. One. Two is to very openly address and break myths. I'm a big believer, Som, generally in organization life, to address the elephants in the room. And oftentimes people park the elephants under the carpet because everybody's too uncomfortable raising it. Am I raising it politically correctly? Am I being insensitive? And until you raise those issues to the table, they don't get addressed. And so people live in awkwardness and discomfort, and that does not enable true integration. So one is just the mindset of true integration to enable people to sort of be as a part of one team and not be different from the one team. And this mindset of addressing awkward elephants in the room so that we can drive much closer to integration.
No, I think that's very valuable because it takes two to make it happen. And, we have a lot of people who might just be isolating themselves because the rest of the society in the past have been isolating them. And I think this making two of them to try and get it going, I think is a good. Rishad, this awards that we give every year is to individuals, corporates, people with disability who have been working towards employment. We have been giving awards. Now, the purpose of these awards is not awards, of course, it is to recognize the great work. But we do hope we are creating a community as well of people who would take this further ahead and so on. So, I think corporations like Wipro and individuals like you who, like you said, it's the purposefulness of the initiative that you are. It's not tick in the box. It's not just good to do. It's not CSR, but it's mainstream is extremely important. And we have a journey, long journey, but we will keep going. And we know we have supporters like you. Any last words, Rishad, to us?
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Som, and congratulations to all the work NCPEDP does. I think the fabulous work. I know we've played an act, we've supported because we really believe in. It's great to see awards like this continue over the many years to bring visibility to important issues that matter and should matter. And so thank you and for driving this as well.
Thank you, Rishad. And we are going to count on you as we always have. And we are going to be many things that we noted down here. We're going to be using this further, including directly the words from you. So thank you, Rishad, for being here. We know we have taken a lot of your time, but appreciate it. Thank you
for having me.
Sangeeta, over to you, please.
Thank you very much. That was a very engaging, very interesting fireside chat between Mr. Rishad Premji, Executive Chairman of Wipro Limited, with Mr. Som Mittal, Chairman, NCPEDP. I thought it's so many learning points, so many points one takes home from this. And a thought that came to my mind was this is the most natural partnership. Wipro deals in education, NCPEDP in employment. So you take up from where they leave off. Thank you very much. That was really interesting. Friends, we'll continue from where we left off in the awards, that is. We were in the midst of Category C. Category C, just as a reminder, is role model companies, NGOs, and institutions. And one of the recipients of the award, Kendua Dihi Bikas Society. Kendua Dihi Bikas Society is an NGO working for the cause of disability in Bankura district of West Bengal since 1996. Operating in rural areas, there is always a dearth of livelihood opportunities. Thus, they adopted the motto, early childhood to livelihood, focusing on early identification and intervention of children with disabilities providing them with special education and rehabilitation services. Pre-vocational and vocational training is provided to trainable children of ages 12 and 14. PWDs above 18 years of age are formed into self-help groups, imparting skill training and providing marketing support so that they can, by and large, compete in the open labor market. We have Mr. Uttam Mukherjee, founder of Kendua Dihi Vikas Society, who is going to tell us more about the work that they do. Over to you, Mr. Uttam Mukherjee.
My name is Uttam Mukherjee. I am the founder of Kendua Dihi Vikas Society, which is working for the empowerment of persons with disability in Bankura district for over 2 decades. As our focal theme is to empower the persons with disabilities from early childhood to livelihood, we render our services through special school, CBR programs, vocational as well as skill training on various job-oriented courses. Also, we emphasize on self-employment activities as job placement opportunities are limited in a backward district like Bankura. Presently, hundreds of PWDs are income earners through various livelihood activities. We are extremely happy for this prestigious NCPEDP-MIndtree Helen Keller Award 2021. This award will make us more responsive in our future course of action for promotion of employment of persons with disabilities. Many thanks to NCPEDP and Mindtree for selecting our organization as an awardee for 2021.
That's a representative of Kendua Dihi Vikas Society receiving the coveted award. The next recipient of the NCPEDP-MIndtree Helen Keller Award 2021 is ATPAR, Alliance to Promote Abilities and Rehabilitation. Alliance to Promote Abilities and Rehabilitation LLP is a social enterprise that enables to start, sustain, and scale entrepreneurial ventures of persons with disabilities for economic empowerment, social inclusion, and rehabilitation. ATPAR sensitized over 2,000 PWDs and family members and trained over 450 persons with disabilities on entrepreneurship through NSIC, NIESBUD. ATPAR also provides individual mentoring, accessing government schemes, MSME registration, incubation centers, accelerator programs, market linkages, financial linkages, and ecosystem engagement. ATPAR launched NIDAR, the first ever network of entrepreneurs with disabilities for assistance and rehabilitation in June 2019, and which has over 110 members from across 13 states and union territories engaged in 48 types of businesses. The co-founders of ATPAR, Mr. K.V. Rajendran and Ms. Tilakam Rajendran, will now tell us more about the work that they do and the impact that they have achieved.
Alliance to Promote Abilities and Rehabilitation, in short ATPAR, is a social enterprise. We work with entrepreneurs with disabilities and persons with disabilities and their family members, train them on entrepreneurial skills, mentor them to start, sustain and scale their enterprises for their economic empowerment, social inclusion and rehabilitation. We launched the first ever network of entrepreneurs with disabilities called NIDAR in June 2019 and have over 110 members from across 13 states in the country. We provide market linkages, financial linkages and ecosystem engagement. We thank NCPEDP for the NCPEDP-MIndtree Helen Keller Award to ATPAR. And not only for us, it is a great initiative to recognize invisible contributors, the entrepreneurs with disabilities in the country.
I would also like to thank NCPEDP-MIndtree for this recognition. और मैं तो यही कहना चाहूँगी सारे पर्सन्स विद डिसेबिलिटी को कि अपना टाइम आएगा करके नौकरी के इंतज़ार में ना रहें, उद्यमी बने, लीडर बनकर आत्मनिर्भर बने। ये एक अच्छा मौका है और सही समय अब है। धन्यवाद।
There, that's the proud team of ATPAR with the coveted award. Friends, the next recipient, Spastic Society of Karnataka Center for Developmental Disabilities. The Spastic Society of Karnataka Center for Developmental Disabilities, Bangalore, was established in 1982 and provides comprehensive rehabilitation services for children with developmental disabilities. Annually, 6,000 children, and to date, more than 61,000 children and their families have received services. SSK promotes equal employment opportunities for the trainees through introduction of pre-vocational and life skills, focusing on individual abilities and for overall personality development. They also support students to achieve their maximum potential with the help of assistive devices and prepare NIOS certification for equal opportunity employment. We have Mrs. Rukmani Krishnaswamy, Director SSK, who speaks about their work.
My heartfelt thanks to the National Center for Promotion of Employment of Disabled People for awarding the NCPEDP-MIndtree Helen Keller Award for the year 2021 to Spastic Society of Karnataka, Bangalore. Thanks a great deal. From all of us, every member of Spastic Society of Karnataka is thanking you for this kind gesture. At SSK, engaging our trainees with disability into occupational activation is a core element of the training of rehabilitation. Work allows them to realize three significant determinants of their lives: financial, rehabilitation, and social. It also builds their own self-image. As you can see, you must have observed in many cases, acceptance and gives meaning to their lives. Our trainees are placed in open, supported, and sheltered environments, in corporates, and in areas where skilled jobs are required. They are shining examples of proof that giving an employment to a person with disability adds to the immense value to any corporate organization and to the community itself who is accepting these children. Now, they are grown up. They are no more children. Though we call them children, I think they are all now young adults. We have to respect them now as young adults. And they are able to fulfill some of their own desires, and they are going to be very much part of the community, which is going to treasure them and see the value of these people who are trained in these kind of various skills and employed in corporates. So they are like anyone else who is looking for a job or getting a job and feeling happy and settled. Thank you so much.
That's Mrs. Rukmani Krishnaswamy receiving the award from Mr. Panish Rao. Congratulations, Mrs. Krishnaswamy. Friends, we now have awards for the new category, Entrepreneurs with Disabilities. These awards are to honor self-employment prospects, that is, persons with disabilities who have managed to set up businesses and sustain them over a period of time, thus making a positive difference in the life of others as well. The first recipient in the category, Anand V.S. Kulkarni, Mumbai, Maharashtra. He is the founder, producer, director at Flop Films Private Limited. After topping the University of Mumbai in Bachelor's of Mass Media, an intensive, visually demanding program, Anand realized that filmmaking had long captured his imagination. Against all odds and concerns, he dived deep into the world of commercial filmmaking and put all his heart and soul into his production house, Flop Films Private Limited. His venture, Flop Films, is India's first and only production house founded by a visually impaired filmmaker. Anand has worked with celebrities like Nasiruddin Shah, Baman Irani, Salim Suleiman, Shankar Ehsan Loy, business leaders like Shapur Mistry, Anuaga, and for brands like Harley Davidson, Asian Paints, Axis Bank, Mahindra Group, and many, many more. Anand's vision for Flop Films is not only to be a pioneer in filmmaking, but also to play a pivotal role in making the world of entertainment more accepting, more accessible for people with disabilities. Let's hear it from this young filmmaker, Anand Kulkarni.
Hi, my name is Anand, and I'm incredibly humbled to be receiving the Mindtree Helen Keller Award by NCPEDP. I accept this award on behalf of my parents, my brother, my family, friends, and most importantly, my clients, who chose to believe in me in spite of that little voice in their head. I don't know if my struggle or my success is as amazing. I just think it's more visible and therefore that much more obvious. Yes, it is incredibly audacious that a blind guy thinks that he can make films as good as anybody else, heck, even better. And a large part of that is my father. He sacrificed his own life goals and career so that I don't have to sacrifice mine. He always made me believe that anything was possible. And if you think about it, tomorrow is exciting only because it is a possibility. Between that possibility and reality, there is a huge distance full of challenges. To cover that journey, you need incredible grit. And that grit is fueled by hope. That hope is what this award and the work that NCPEDP is doing represents to me. Because it's really very difficult to break down barriers, shatter prejudice, and create opportunities for people with disabilities. And I hope that through this award and through all the work they're doing, all of us can beat down disability into what it truly is, a mere activity restriction and participatory limitation. I thank you all for considering me worthy of this honor. Thank you so much.
There's Anand and his proud parents receiving the award. More power to you, Anand, and may none of your films flop. Friends, the next recipient in this category, Ms. Santosh Sharma, founder of Ditty Trade. Ditty Trade was established in October 2018. Ms. Santosh Sharma founded the company with her husband, Rajinder Sharma. Prior to that, her husband was working in HT Media Limited, but due to his illness, he had to leave his job. Thereafter, both of them did the EDP course from NSIC Okhla through ATPAR. In the beginning, Ditty Trade manufactured machine-made as well as handmade cotton wick. Soon, the company started producing other related products used in religious rituals like chandan tika, roli, moli, ghee wicks, fancy kalava, etc. In the first 6 months of business, Ditty generated only 68,000 rupees of revenue, which slowly increased to 8 lakhs and now has touched 18 lakhs. As Ditty's business is growing, Santosh plans to generate more employment for women and for persons with disabilities, which will not only give them financial freedom, but also help them to be a part of the social ecosystem. Let's hear it from Ms. Santosh Sharma.
नमस्कार, NCPEDP द्वारा हेलन केलर अवार्ड रोल मॉडल एंटरप्रेन्योर विद डिसेबिलिटी से सम्मानित करने पर बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। यह अवार्ड न केवल हमारे बिजनेस को प्रोत्साहित करेगा, अपितु दिव्यांगजनों के लिए रोजगार के अवसर भी प्रदान करेगा। मेरी कंपनी पूजा से संबंधित प्रोडक्ट बनाती है। इसमें जोत बत्ती, सामरानी का कपूर, धूप, चंदन टिक्का इत्यादि शामिल हैं। अंत में मैं इस अवार्ड के लिए राजेंद्र सर, NSIC तिलकिम मैम जी की बहुत शुक्रगुजार हूँ, जिन्होंने समय समय पर मुझे मार्ग दिखाया। एक बार फिर इस अवार्ड को मिलने पर मैं NCPEDP को धन्यवाद करती हूँ। धन्यवाद। ऑल द बेस्ट।
That's Ms. Santosh Sharma and her family with the award. बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं संतोष जी आपको। Tariq Ahmed Mir from Budgam, Jammu and Kashmir for Special Hands of Kashmir. Special Hands of Kashmir is a pioneering and path-breaking enterprise that creates livelihood through specialized skills with special focus on persons with disability. It is a group of 100 artisans working together in order to live a life of decency. It employs people with disabilities and also from economically weak sections, thus empowering them while also reviving the traditional handcraft of the valley. The work is related to embroidery needlework and does not need any specific education. Hence, it is neither gender nor age bound. Tariq plans to employ about 100 youths in the next 3 years and earn a turnover of about 1 crore rupees. Special Hands of Kashmir is a ray of hope for many unemployed and disabled youth who have become self-dependent owing to the efforts of Tariq Ahmed Mir, while also playing a positive role in promoting and popularizing the traditional art forms of Kashmir.
Hi, my name is Tariq Ahmed Mir. I am feeling proud and honored on winning the NCPEDP-MIndtree Helen Keller Award for the year 2021 as a role model entrepreneur with disability. I would like to thank NCPEDP and all the jury members for recognizing me with this prestigious award. 2010 में मैंने स्पेशल हैंड्स ऑफ कश्मीर की बुनियाद डाली। आज देखते ही देखते 500 आर्टिजन लोग इसमें डायरेक्टली और इनडायरेक्टली काम कर रहे हैं। इस अवार्ड से न सिर्फ डिसेबिलिटी सेक्टर को ज़्यादा बूस्ट मिलेगा, बल्कि बहुत सारे लोग जो कुछ नहीं कर पाते हैं वो भी इससे इंस्पायर हो जाएंगे। मैं NCPEDP का शुक्रिया अदा करना चाहूँगा जिन्होंने मुझे इस काबिल समझा।
Well-deserved award by Mr. Mir. बहुत बहुत मुबारक हो मीर साहब आपको इस अवार्ड के लिए। Well, friends, that brings us to the end of the award ceremony of the 22nd NCPEDP-MIndtree Helen Keller Awards. Congratulations to all the awardees. And for the closing remarks, I'd like to invite Mr. Som Mittal, Chairman, NCPEDP. Over to you.
Thank you, Sangeeta ji. I must thank you first for many, many years conducting our awards and supporting NCPEDP. Somebody like you anchoring these programs just adds so much. And you know, you've been associated with us for so many years. It helps. I would also like to compliment the jury and of course the NCPEDP team on, you know, finding first and then rewarding all these very, very well-deserving people. So PG, you and the team and the whole jury, and Arman, your team for having led this. You know, I've known Mindtree from its inception in 1999, and it's 32 years since Mindtree got established. From day one, I think they've been committed for the cause of the disabled. And we are very thankful to Mindtree that over these years, they have contributed both directly and indirectly to the cause. And thank you very much for partnering with us. And we look forward for Mindtree to guide us and support us in all our activities ahead. It was very good to see that while we were doing this virtually, we were able to reach the awards in a physical manner and give it rather than send it by post later on. So I think this has been very good. We have been very enthused with all of you on this call, and I think the fact that this medium has helped us reach out to more people than the 300, 400 people that we used to have in a auditorium earlier. We have heard Mr. Sharad Phillip Md from the corporate. We have heard the various winners of what they have done. I think the journey for us is quite long, but I think we are seeing progress. And all of you awardees, you've done such a stellar work that it keeps us motivated to do more. And we know that there is a lot more to do. We were very disappointed that the minister could join. We understand that the time that we do our NCPEDP awards for Helen Keller is the time when the parliament is on. But nevertheless, we will be sending him a list of our asks. We're going to brief him on the event. And there were a number of things that we wanted to do with him. He represents two very important areas that are directly linked to the cause of employment for the disabled. One, he is the Minister of State for IT and also the Minister of State for Skill Development. And I think both of them have a big role to play. It was very enthusing that while we're looking at employment with employers, this year we introduced the entrepreneur. And I think self-employment to us is a very large area. Of course, it would need skills that we need to develop and opportunities that are there, but I think the awardees have shown that we can do it. Some of the areas that we would ask the minister to do is, I think we cannot not be included in Digital India. The initiatives that the government has taken, the government websites are still not accessible. I think there is need to change the guidelines of the government websites. They have a guideline, but I think in its implementation, there are gaps. I think there should be deadlines and timelines given. I think COVID has shown that it's not a bottleneck to getting a job done. So I think this is going to be one big thing. And today, as we move to digital, particularly payment gateways, food delivery options, online medication health services, while these are opportunities that provide access, but if the digital access is not there, then it merely remains as a word. I think we need to get the new policy changed for the universal electronic accessibility, which was done in 2013. This has not been reviewed. I think there are gaps in how it is being implemented. And I think this is something that we would be asking the minister to do as well. Then there are, of course, areas of creating social innovation hub. We are, as NCPEDP, working on, with the government's help, setting up a hub for assistive technology startups, because I think there's a lot that we have to do in Indian context. While there are lots of tools and products available internationally, but we have to make them more affordable and accessible here. I think the government needs to have incentives that are there for people who are doing things, producing products, or even entrepreneurs that we saw to be able to motivate them as well. The last point I would mention is that there are so many initiatives that the government takes up, and they talk about the backward class. And, every time I think they forget mentioning the disabled. We have to ensure, and that is what NCPEDP will continue to work, that it becomes top of mind, that this very large population of people who are very deserving, I think needs attention. So thank you very much, all of you, for being with us today. We hope that these winners will continue to do and accelerate more work that they have been doing till now, and also motivate many others to do it. So Arman, I must thank you and the team for consistently, motivating people to apply. And we had a large number of applications, as we do every year. And again, congratulations, winners, and thank you, Pradeep, and everybody else in the jury to have done such a wonderful job. Sangeeta ji, again, thank you. And I'm going to mention the name of Ria and Sarah. Thanks, Ria, Sarah, for what you do for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Congratulations to all the awardees, and stay safe, stay healthy. We can beat all the viruses, I'm sure. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And
bye.